All right, big news right off the top, Pastor Tatlock. I had a colonoscopy yesterday.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious.
Oh, you're serious?
Yeah, I did.
I can
had
text
one.
me on this and per request and everything.
I know. Well, because I didn't, it wasn't really to that point yet. The prayer request I needed is I couldn't eat for a day and a half. That was the tough part. But I had one 5 years ago, and then which you're supposed to have when you. Now they've pushed the age back now to the time you're supposed to have them. And then, so I had it 5 years ago, and then I went back in for a consultation like 2 months ago, and we had a very good friend of ours tragically pass away.
Yeah.
And he had colon cancer for a year. And then we have another friend who's had stage 3.5, no symptoms, and another friend who just got diagnosed with stage 4.
Oh, wow.
So when I went in, he said, you know what? He goes, you had one 5 years ago. He goes, kind of by our new standards, we wouldn't probably have you in for 7. We would have told you. So you're good for 2 more years. And I said, I kind of think if I tell my wife that I could have one, but I'm not going to, that she's going to say to go ahead and have it. So I did. So it's, for all you guys freaked out about it, it's not that big of a deal.
No.
It really is not. The way they do it now, again, the biggest pain in the whole thing is the prep.
It's the prep.
But the prep isn't that bad
It's
anymore.
not as bad as people think it is.
No, it's not like it used to be. You don't drink the jug of shame anymore. They call it. I went to Costco to pick up the prep kit. She goes, "Oh, you got the 16 ounces twice." And she goes, "You don't get the jug of shame." And I go, "What is that?" And she pointed back there. And there's like a 50-gallon drum of syrup stuff. And she goes, "That's how you used to have to do it." And so, but I didn't have to do that. And the prep is not that bad. You can't eat. It's uncomfortable for a day. But anyway, had it done. So I wanted to tell guys, don't put that off, because that's a rapidly growing cancer in men.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they're finding it. And if you have something in there, a little polyp in there, you're not going to feel it in your intestine or whatever until they go in there and find it. And otherwise it'll show no sign. And the great news is once they go in and see a little polyp, they just take it out.
Done.
And therefore you're that's
preventive.
It's preventive. Yeah. That's not going to be cancerous.
Yep.
So,
well, it's funny you say this. Before we introduce our amazing guest today.
yeah, I know. I didn't need to start off with this kind of
we're
baptism.
literally just sitting, had no idea you were going to bring
I know.
that
Sorry.
up.
I wasn't going to.
I'm currently going, what is actually going on right now? Is this a medical show?
No, you're getting a little deep dive into VP.
Well, before we introduce Matt, it's funny you even said that, because funny story, I've only had one colonoscopy because there was some concerns and some tests, and this was probably 12 years ago. But
You got to get back in.
that's what I'm saying. I'm listening to you right now, and I'm feeling like, oh, gee, I got to listen to what you said.
Back in.
I know. But here's the thing: when I had mine done, the guy who did it was like a well-known doctor in the area. Goes to our church. That was a little different.
So one thing, funny thing is, 5 years ago when I had it done, they wheel me. So you go in there and you get, they kind of take your vitals. It takes an hour.
Yeah.
Into the place and out of it. And you're put clear under.
Oh, absolutely.
So they put me in, they wheel me into the room. There's like 3 people in there, which is kind of weird, but it's kind of dimly lit. It's not the end of the world. But then 2 of the guys go,
and stuff.
"Hey man, laser guy, TV, I've seen you on." And I go, "Oh man, don't do that." And there's TV screens all over.
Paparazzi in there.
I said, "You're going to see a different version of me on TV this time." And so they kind of laughed at that. But then whatever they use, I know there are places that don't put you clear under, but I think most of them do. But when they turn the stuff on, the next thing you know, you're laying there on your side, talking to them, and you wake up a minute later and you're back in your little room. You don't remember a thing. It's like literally whatever it is, 45 minutes, half hour, whatever, goes by in the blink of an eye, and it's a great nap.
It is a great
From
nap.
somebody who doesn't sleep really well, I need to get my hands on some of that stuff. Just kidding.
The best part, we had this conversation the other day with some guys. I said they were freaking out about it, and I said, "Listen, the best is the post-op, best is the post whatever. You will be in the most blissful state. You're going to go
phenomenal.
home. It is incredible, and then you're going to go, man, I got to get some of that. How do
My
I do that?
stress was gone.
Exactly.
And then they always say, after, your stomach is completely, obviously empty from a day and a half of really liquid diet and really no eating the day of it, starting like at 6 a.m. They say, don't like eat a bunch of food right away because you're going to be really hungry when you get out. No, I crushed a foot-long Jersey Mike's on the way back. So my wife, God bless her, came and picked me up and had a big sandwich laying on the seat. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's fantastic. All right, enough of that. Sorry to start with that.
No, keep going, please.
Matt Taylor is we wanted to have you on for a long time. And I know you are an incredibly busy guy. But we're happy because you spend, not only are you a high school basketball coach, so you deal with the younger men.
Yes.
But I know you spend a ton of time dealing with men's groups at the church. You'll give the occasional sermon. You're always around. You're available. And Matt's like, what, 6'6", 6'7"?
6'6".
So you stand out in a crowd. Large man. But we wanted to have you on to talk about, because everything you deal with, because we can sit in here and talk hypotheticals, and not that we don't deal with guys, because we do in our own cohorts, and Mike certainly does at church as a pastor and an NBA team chaplain. You're in the trenches. And so for a lot of the stuff that we talk about, we just wanted to have you in on a episode and talk about all of these things, because I know you have a lot of guys, even where you're a high school basketball coach, a lot of these coaches have started listening to Vertical Pursuit. We love that. But now they can listen to you. So thanks for coming on with us.
No, I really appreciate being on here. It's an honor. I was actually sharing with these guys before we went live that in my Tuesday morning cohort, our discipleship cohort, there's 6 of us, and I have 2 guys that faithfully listen. Like, they don't miss an episode. I'll give a shout out to JJ and Paul, and I think a couple other ones are listening more and more, and they're always asking me, like, oh, did you get that episode? Why didn't you watch or listen to it? And I said, the amazing thing for me is I'm blessed. I get to live the VP podcast every week.
That's right.
I get to be a part of it. I get to hear a lot of these things in meetings and rooms when, Mike dives into leadership and leads our staff through things. And I've gotten to know Mike Barrett, and he's done some cool things for our boys basketball program in Canby. And so it's just an honor again to be here.
And you guys, speaking to you, Pastor Tatlock, Matt is one of your big wingmen the trenches with church, because you're the lead pastor at Grace Chapel in Wilsonville. And I mentioned also the NBA team chaplain for the Trailblazers, and Matt being a basketball coach. I know there are guys who are important. We talk about organized cohorts, and then there are wingman cohorts every day walking through life. 100%. Matt's that guy for you.
Matt is definitely my wingman. There's no doubt about that. And it's fun because I'll give the quick, just really recap. When we came to Grace Chapel on staff in 2004, we didn't know anybody. I knew the senior pastor and met maybe 1 or 2 people, but didn't know anybody. And Matt and his amazing wife, Julie, invited us and my wife into their house for a home Bible study, small group. That was in 2004, and they invited us in, they hosted it, and that became family for us. And so, and we'll get into this in the podcast, but Matt and Julie are family to my wife and I, and our actual kids have been raised up with Matt's kids. They all know each other, and they're all kind of young adults now and living their life. But I look back to all those years. We've traveled the world together. Matt and I, we've traveled the world together. We've been all over the place. We've done ministry together. He is my wingman on so many things at the church and leadership. I couldn't do what I'm doing today without Matt. And not only that, but he's a dear friend. When we talk on this podcast about you got to have men in your life, brothers in the foxhole, the trenches with you, Matt is one of those guys in that trench with me that I can turn to. I can ask for advice. He gives me perspective. He's a well of wisdom, and he's one of the few men I know. I've known many men in ministry. He's one of the guys I know that people line up to have a coffee with him because of the wisdom that he shares. And so many men are just like look up to Matt. Either young men as spiritual father, a coach, a mentor, but a lot of men across the spectrum of ages, young and old, look to Matt for wisdom and counsel. And I know we'll dive into a lot of that in this podcast. But the other thing, you talked about NBA chaplain. When the NBA chaplains get together twice a year to just, bond and encourage each other, Matt's gone with me. Yeah. And so Matt has been a really strong support for me in the sports ministry world. And it's just who he is. He's a phenomenal college basketball player back in the day. I think he has the smoothest jumper I've ever seen. I tell him that. I call him Big Man
I
Taylor.
take
and
offense
he's got
to that, but that's okay. We're all about giving here, and I'll put myself behind that happily. But I love that. But Matt, and then your daily, talk a little about, before we dive into much. So what is your role then in ministry? I know you're a high school basketball coach and you're so many other things. You wear a ton of hats. What is your main role and goal in your ministry?
It's a really good question. I think really at Grace Chapel, because when I first walked through those doors in November of 2016, it was one of the most, I'll be honest, one of the most scariest moments in my life. We were over in one of the ORPAC buildings at the time that now DW Fritz has. And I remember walking in that first day, and I literally stood there and I go, what am I actually doing? I don't know what to do. And Mike and I had been having conversations with other people, and he said, Matt, just come. So it started with Mike's invitation to step into something kind of big and scary. And it's evolved and it's morphed. And I think really what I aspire and try to be at Grace Chapel is to be a really, really good listener. I know pastor has many different things, shepherd, but I really try to be pastoral in the purest sense, in terms of being available for people, families, not just in the high celebrations of life, but the really, really hard things as well. And I think it's one of the things that honestly my parents modeled very, very well. My dad really modeled is when things are hard, whether it's illness, whether it's death, those hard, tragic things in life, is you have to be somebody who's willing to step. It doesn't mean you have all the answers. It doesn't mean you're the expert in the room. But at the end of the day, that's what people really appreciate is your presence and just stepping toward situations to be available.
First responder.
Yeah, it is a first responder, I think, mentality. And Mike's modeled that for our staff, and that's what I've tried to be. Is just somebody who's available, who will sit and listen. And yeah, Mike, you were very, very kind in the wisdom. Really, I think a lot of the things I've really grown to journal. And I think when you write things down and try to be consistent and diligent in that, I take a lot of the stuff I've written down and heard from other people, and I try to be a conduit. I just try to pass it on. And so that's been good. It's interesting. You guys started with colonoscopy, right? And I'm just going, wow. This is, and I think about men, and Mike, there's a lot of things that face men today, right? The family units. And I don't want to be dismissive of that. And I think what you guys have and model is men need to be willing to pursue healthy relationships. I was kind of sharing that a little bit with you guys last night and stuff, but men need to have a desire to pursue healthy relationships. And these are guys, people in their lives who are just going to be in there with them. And what I mean by healthy, you think about plants, you think about trees, you think about things that grow. Healthy things grow. They don't stay stagnant. They thrive. Right. And I think that's the thing that I would want for guys is all the things that you face out there. And the challenge is do you have a group of men who are healthy relationships for you? I like to use this a lot. I think I learned this actually somewhere. Is you think about a celt, C-E-L-T, right? It's a prehistoric stone. And a lot of times it was used to be a weapon. Right. So a celt, a prehistoric stone. And I was thinking one day, and I was just kind of praying, and I thought about like the sea. And I think, guys, if you can have a guy who will challenge you, this isn't about like competition. It's not somebody who's trying to beat you on the golf course.
It's accountability.
Right? Yeah. Accountability. Somebody who's willing to challenge you in a really good way. And you think about the E. is we all benefit when we have somebody in our life who encourages us, right? Who's going to encourage us regardless of our situations. And then you think about the L. Who are the guys that are going to love you, right? We all have our warts. We all have our blemishes. We all have those ugly things, but they're going to love. And then I think the last thing that I have really grown to appreciate, I've got people in my life, is the T. And it's probably the hardest one to find, but is who's the guy that's going to speak truth into your life, whether you want to hear it or not.
Wow.
Who cares enough, who loves you enough, who is going to speak truth. It's not about pointing out the speck in our own eyes and stuff, but like just is willing to speak truth to you. So
Wow.
There's so many guys in my life that, I've got a lot of cohort guys, but then I have so many guys that I know who I talk to once every couple weeks who I've known for years. And then I come to realize at times they probably only have one or two guys they talk to. And some of that is by design. Some of that I feel badly for, and I've tried to be that guy.
yes,
A lot of guys don't want that because it makes it forces an introspection on their part, and they don't want to go there. And then there are other guys who I even have guys who I know pretty well, and some people are podcast people, so this is not about that. Some people aren't.
yeah,
But I did have one friend tell me one time, and I've mentioned this before, he had said at one point, kind of listened to it, and then he had another guy say, hey, he should be listening to it. And he goes, I'm not sure that applies to me. And I said, what do you mean by that? He said, I'm not sure. I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about having to go there. Do you find a lot of guys, it takes a guy that's not, and you can work toward this,
yes,
where you park pride, you park some of that stuff that, that weirdly false machismo that says you don't have to do this. You don't have to think of these things. Don't go open that door in your own mind because you don't want to see what's in there. That's a process I know for a lot of guys. Do you find that do you hit that wall sometimes with guys to where they just don't want to do? It's much easier for them to just to go numb up and do the stuff they normally do and go be by themselves.
Oh yeah. I mean, I do it. You are 100% correct, Mike. We do at some point in relationships, we wall up to people. We want to isolate, right? They now know maybe more than we're actually comfortable with.
Yeah.
What are they going to do with that information? You start to share. I think what I am finding fascinating is guys, and I've shared this in some different contexts, is as men open up, they'll share. And whether it's the hard things in the world of sex and sexual type of things, marital problems, relationships, one of the doors that I'm actually finding are really hard to get guys to open and talk about is actually their finances.
I'm sure.
Which is kind of crazy, right? So you think about all these relational things and the potential for addictions and this and that. And I think it's a part of kind of maybe the false thing that we put on is I don't want to talk about how I spend my time or my money and my resources and give and stuff. And it's, but it takes time, right? In relationships to stick in there. And I think that's what I would also want to encourage guys is these relationships aren't perfect, right? Mike Tatlock is a dear friend. Mike Barrett is a good friend. You're not perfect to me. I am definitely not perfect to you. And I think that we so hard picture in our mind that it needs to look this way. But I think that's the beautiful thing. You think about going out on a hike, right? Thought about this morning, thinking about being on the podcast and stuff today. If you're going on a hike, life is very much like a hike. Like you're going to the mountain peak per se. You think about all of the creeks, the cliffs, potential wildlife, all the things between here and this thing you're going. If you're going alone versus a person and you fall and stumble, do you want to be alone if you've taken a hard fall?
Right.
Right?
Right.
Or would you rather be with somebody? It doesn't mean you can't hike or walk alone. I at times like to have that quiet time, and also like when you take a hard fall in life, it's really nice when you have a guy or two or three or persons in your life who are going to be there, who are going to pick you up and care for you and walk and stuff. So,
and that's where I've seen, you and I, Matt, have gone through several seasons where I have experienced that with you. And I know you've been that to other people, and other people have been that to you. I love when you talked about the Celt, and I didn't know that was used as a weapon. I remember you've referenced this before. One of the things I love about you, Matt, that I'll say for you, but it's an important principle that guys need to hear as they're listening, is that you are very intentional. I think it's because you have a deep hunger to grow. You want to grow, and you welcome and you invite in the CELT. But I know some guys are like, how do I get to that place? Because you would probably say there's a group of guys together in your life that not one guy has all the CELT.
Yeah. Oh, for
it's
sure.
Made up of a group of different guys in your life.
And it can change too, right? In different times in your life, guys move away, whatever. Yeah.
So how would you give guys advice on finding men like that in their life? What have you done intentionally to invite guys in? Is it, do you just find a dude on the street? I mean, metaphorically, someone that you respect, and go up to him and say, hey, will you meet with me? Or do you let it organically happen, or both? And like, for guys who are listening and go, man, I could really use the CELT type people in my life, what's some advice you can give them to get started in that?
Yeah. It's a really, really good question. I don't know that there's a clear answer, and I'm going to start with something, and I know guys are going to go, well, of course he's going to say that. He's a pastor. I think it starts with being in healthy environments. Churches, right, are they're not perfect. Don't hear that. And also, if you're looking for those places, a church, does that church have a group life? Does it have opportunities for guys to step in? And I know there's a huge fear factor. We deal with it all the time, every day, right? But you have to step towards that. I think the willingness to step out, invite somebody to coffee, like you invited me into the ministry, the power of invitation, right? You've got to put some time and effort. I've shared this with a lot of people. If you think about going to a sporting context, right? You're going to watch a game, you're sitting in a church service, a concert, whatever it is. I think if you looked around and everybody was really, really honest, and you asked them, hey, would you benefit from having another good, healthy friend in your life? I bet you 99.9% of the hands would go up. So think about that. So you're sitting there wanting and desiring, and also those guys around you want and desire the same thing.
Yeah.
So who's going to make the first move? Who's going to take a step?
Yeah.
You've been telling me some exciting things that have been happening at firehouses, police agencies, different organizations, and it takes somebody to be a catalyst, a spark, right? I've shared multiple times. That's the beautiful thing about Tuesday morning in the cohort that I started. I sat there on February 5th a couple of years ago on a rainy Saturday night, and the Holy Spirit had been bugging me and nagging me about, hey, invite these guys. And I kept telling God, they're not going to come. They're not going to come. And so I started with the 3 safest ones I could think of. And I thought, okay, I'll probably get one. Within 12 hours, I had 3 firm yeses.
Wow.
So it gave me enough courage to ask 2 more. And I thought, well, highly unlikely. Yes.
Wow.
And it started, they had all were looking for the same thing.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And you could be a guy right now, well, you're a pastor or you're a coach. That's easier for you. That's natural. And also, it started with an invitation, a willingness. I was sharing something I've been trying to flesh out is I finally put aside my identity and my right. I put God's reputation on the line.
Wow.
Right. He has said, I will be faithful. I just need you to be obedient. So I put God's reputation on the line in that particular case. And, and it's been a very, very healthy environment.
So you talk about the cohort. Tell us what goes into that. What's it like? What do you experience? What is your plan when you go into that? Is it different all the time? So give guys, because guys, we talk about cohorts a lot. We talk about getting guys together. Tell us a little bit of what a Tuesday morning looks like with that cohort.
Honestly, a lot like this podcast.
Okay,
To
perfect.
be really honest with you, I would love to tell you that, man, we are breaking down scripture every Tuesday morning and we're throwing our hands up in praise. And also it is very much like this podcast. We are having real conversations about real things. Yeah. Did we start out with, there's a list of 100 questions that a couple of guys have put together that are awesome. We use those as icebreakers. So we started that way. Yeah, we found a book and we've done studies. And more times than not, we're sitting here sharing and talking about life. The hard things, we're celebrating the good things. We're all coaches or teachers or both. And there's just a lot to encourage each other in, a lot to pray over, talk. And so you have that Tuesday morning, right? And the beautiful part is the Monday, the start, the other days of the week, the text, hey, I could really use prayer in this, whatnot. So it's.
Well, I love that. Cause you, like you said earlier, I think men are afraid to invite because we're afraid of rejection.
Right.
Yeah. And like you said, you're like, oh, this guy's probably not going to say it. But you said something yesterday to me and you just alluded to it about reputation. This is one of those Matt nugget moments, right? You drop these all the time, but yesterday you were talking about the difference of putting our reputation on the line versus putting God's reputation on the line. And I was like, whoa, I never heard that before. That's so good. Because so often in life, if I'm worried about my reputation, then it might cause me to fear rejection because I'm fearing me. And yet putting God's reputation on the line is, I'm going to go out on a limb at times, but it's really him on the line, not me out there on that line or on that limb. But I love that you're seeing the fruit of guys that said yes. They were waiting for that invitation.
Yeah. There was fear in me sending that invitation. There was, right? And Mark Batterson in his 40-day prayer challenge on day 6 of that, shameless audacity, right? And kind of broke down the story of Jesus and the friend and was talking about prayer and different things like that. And I think we so much try to personalize that Matt Taylor's reputation is on the line, right? Well, we'll step out in faith.
Is that the fear you're talking about?
Yeah.
Why are you saying you had fear in doing that?
It's the fear of rejection.
Okay.
It's the fear of somebody saying no.
Okay.
Right? We don't want that. It's the fear of not being approved of men. Something crazy happened, and I'm almost a little bit embarrassed to kind of say this, is I am driving to record this podcast today, right? And I didn't know questions. You guys had kind of prepped me. So what did I do in my own kind of self way is I reached out to some random people and I asked them this question. What do I do well as a coach? Like, just should I be asked about something? I've identified my growth areas. And no one answered the phone. They didn't know why I was calling or texting. And the Holy Spirit said, Matt, why did you have to go and try to get approval of men before you went on a podcast to help your confidence to be able to speak and or answer questions? It's kind of fascinating. Yeah. And I'm kind of like, gosh, that's what I defaulted to today. Going on, I'm going to be asked questions. We're talking about ourselves, sharing about ourselves. And I had to go get approval of men. And God said, again, I'm enough.
Wow.
Who do you say,
Wow.
who do you think I say about you?
Wow.
And so, yeah, it's an everyday battle, guys. It's an everyday battle.
It is a battle because that's those voices in our heads that am I trying to please all these names? You insert it, or I'm finding my validation, approval, qualification based on those things in order to step out. Because like you said, we're going to be called as men at times to put not ourselves out there, but really putting God out there, because if he's asking us to do something, we're just got to go do it. And if they reject the idea or the invitation, they're not rejecting me. They're rejecting what he's asked me to do. But I take it personally. And then I'm like, oh, and this and that. It's interesting for you as a pastor today, but before you were a pastor, you spent years as a leader in the workforce, and you've had different jobs. You've managed a lot of people. You've helped run companies, and you've been all over the U.S. and representing your different companies and stuff. You bring a lot of perspective, and I think that's why men love to sit with you, is because they don't just hear the pastoral part, but they also go, man, I've been there. I know what it's like to work for a boss. I know what it's like to work out in a world that might be secular and you feel alone, and there's challenges of getting the sales in every month, and you've had to walk those things out. Take a little bit of time here and kind of think through your life. What have been some of the biggest challenges Matt Taylor's had to go through personally, maybe in life as a leader or an employee, employer, as a husband, father, coach? What are some of the biggest challenges? And then the follow-up question to that is, what did you learn from those, or how do they shape you? Or, what was some of the things you learned from those challenges?
I think about my days of employment in the business world, very typical. And I know a lot of you guys probably have experienced this. You've worked for a boss who is simply trying to get up the ladder, and you are simply a step for them. What you do for them is a reflection, and they're just trying to build their resume. I've applied for promotions within company, have been told no. Think about on the road, was with a company for a couple of years and spent a lot of time traveling, sales, being away from home, missing our middle son's athletic contest, just that whole FOMO thing, kind of being very, very isolated. There was 2 years where I was very isolated, even from our home group, family, relationships, and that was hard. And it was also, I think, in those moments, I had a choice. Could I default to some fleshly things to satisfy in the moment? Or was I going to get on the phone with a friend, shoot a text, press in, and try to, because the enemy's all over you, right? Totally. He is all over you. And what does it look like to try to stand firm in those temptations? And so, it's been a lot and growing. And I was kind of thinking about some things, and it's easy, I'm 54 years old now, and you can look back in hindsight, and there has been a lot of obstacles. And I think one of the things that I've actually been trying to do as a coach with the kids is those obstacles in life are actually opportunities to display some resilience and or grit. Right? And what does that look like now? And I think we're all faced with challenges, and there's some significant challenges, right? Yeah. I was actually unemployed for 6 months. I chose that unemployment. I felt like the Lord got home from Rwanda in July of 2014, and the Holy Spirit said, Matt, you just need to go. And I think about that conversation, getting home, and there was a lot of things going on. I'd been at the company 7+ years, and the Holy Spirit just said, go. And I remember if I could have gotten to the 10th year, would have been that much more invested financially. It was pretty significant. I was doing pretty well in terms of income. And also the Holy Spirit said, hey, there are just things that you don't align with when it comes to just it's not illegal per se, but just some integrity issues, some character wrestling, and I stepped out.
Wow.
And that step in July of 2014 was actually another step to eventually join the staff at Grace in November of 16. So you take that, and I love to be able to try to take that into leading young men and coaching, because we have a choice every day, right? Are we going to embrace these obstacles as opportunities? Yeah, it sounds very cliche, and also, right? Was talking about this with my wife again this morning. I think honestly the two hardest things that I have actually gone through, where I've had to get on my knees and cry out in desperation, is when Julie was diagnosed with colon cancer. And so when you guys talk about colonoscopy to start, that was a very real thing in February, March, April of 2015.
Wow.
And then probably the second hardest thing actually happened in April of this year. Was on a living water trip. Mike's daughter was also on that team. She became very, very ill, and I felt extremely helpless.
Yeah.
And I and some of the members who are on the team were faced with really one choice. We need to step in and pray. We need to pray for our sister right now. And daughter, kind of daughter for me as well. And so, there has been some hard things.
Yeah. I remember that moment too. And good people are listening that it's my daughter who's getting married in a couple of weeks. And like I said earlier, our kids grew up the same age as Matt and Julie's kids. And we did small groups together. We did camping together. We did vacations together, and going to each other's kids' games and cheering them on. And like, we kind of did that for years. And my daughter has this passion for doing mission stuff, and Matt was leading a trip to put a water well in Guatemala, and she got 3 strands of E. coli, and we get a text from Matt, and man, I tell you what, my wife and I, of course, were kind of panicking inside, going, how bad is this when your daughter's in a clinic out in the middle of nowhere? And the thing that was so encouraging was knowing that my brother Matt was there with my daughter, because she looks up to him like an uncle, and just the trust that I had in you brought so much peace. Because I told you, Matt, I said, there's no one else I could imagine being there with her that she would feel so comfortable with. But you're right. Like, those are challenges of like, wow, this is, and getting on your knees and praying. And Mike, you can relate with Shelly and going through cancer. Both of you guys can relate to, like, talk about that as a husband, both of you guys. Unpack that a little bit. Even if guys that are listening aren't married or younger or older, they'll be able to relate and identify with that. But unpack for both of you guys what that journey and challenge look like.
Well, I can just say, I remember that very, very well. And obviously it wasn't that long ago. And Matt, I'm sure you can identify with this too. But for me, the moment when she went in for her big surgery, just pacing, and I had a couple friends say, and this is contrary to what we just talked about, can I come down and hang out with you at the hospital while she's in this long surgery? And I just said, no, I'm going to walk. I'm not going to sit and watch the screen that tells, each patient has a number when you go to one of these hospitals, and it says the kind of what the process they're in, how long they have left, if they're in recovery yet. And people are in there just staring at these screens with no control over what is going on. And I walked that hospital that day, I couldn't sit down. And I think the biggest feeling I had in my head, and I'm sure you did as well, is having zero control over a situation. And we're brought up, and I think some of our role tends to be, I can manage anything. I got this. It's my role and my job as a strong husband to defend against danger, to protect the family. But here you're in a situation where you literally have no control. So in the midst of walking and praying and trying to talk to the Lord, trying to stop and pray, I just felt like at that moment, and that's probably the biggest memory I have of that. And there was some great news that came out of it, and she's been doing great, and she feels guilty even that she didn't have to go through some of the things that we've seen other people have to go through. But for me, it was the lack of control. And I think that was very, very hard, but very good for me to have to relinquish that control and realize that at this moment, there's nothing I can do about this. Did you have an experience like that?
Yeah, it's interesting how vividly you remember that, because that's very much what I felt when Julie was diagnosed with colon cancer early in 2015. This is coming on the heels of my dad, one of the core inspirational, fundamental people in my life, had died the previous year of cancer after a pretty long and hard battle. And so it's very fresh. Anytime you hear that cancer word, it can go a lot of different ways. And I'll never forget Dylan, our middle son, looking me in the eyes after I had shared the news. It kind of makes me emotional. He asked the question, does this mean Mom can die like Grandpa?
Oof. Yeah.
And I said, yes. And also, we're just going to pray, right? We're going to pray, and we're going to choose to try to trust God in this. And guys, hear me. Try to trust God. It's not just some easy, we're going to trust God, and whatever he decides to do, we're going to try to trust God. Because I know there are many people listening where, like my dad, you lose somebody to an illness, right? And I think it's in those moments we've got to try to trust God. And what is he speaking to us, through this very, very hard thing in life? Yeah, those things you just never forget, right? Those moments.
No, and it doesn't, and it's not fair, and it doesn't make sense. And we've talked on this podcast a lot about Mike's dad being killed in a car accident on his way home from leading kids to Jesus. It doesn't make any sense. No. And it's so easy to get angry. And of course you were, rightfully so.
Totally.
But that's where in the trusting part, it's not, people are going to listen to it at times, but I'm sure the people that came to you a week after that trying to tell you to trust and listen, you want to scream out and say, this isn't fair.
Oh, 100%. And that's the hard part is there's that saying, God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. And it's true. Like, that is true. By definition of truth, that is true. But when things go south and are unfair, wives having cancer, all three of us, one thing we share in common is losing our fathers. And we've all talked about this at different times. And that's just, the hard things in life aren't fair. The adversities in life aren't fair. And what do we do with an unfair circumstance? And I mean, you have permission to get angry. You have permission to vent. Of course, nobody has to be perfect, because somebody would come up to me and say, well, God is good, and I want to punch him in the face. When they said that to me after I lost my dad, I'm like, yeah, I know he's good, but even though God is good, that doesn't mean this circumstance is good. Don't try to get me to play some sort of Jedi mind game or hype myself into some sort of mental, therapy in my head of because that's I think when people try to sugarcoat the hard stuff, it actually minimizes to an extent. It's almost like when someone is in denial of the harshness and the struggle of it. You're robbing me of what I'm allowed to go through with that, because I won't gain on the other side unless I actually can be honest about how hard it is. And I was talking with someone just recently, and him and his wife were going through some stuff, and it's just some hard relationship stuff with another person, and they just want to leave. And I said, that's the easy road. We all want to leave. I don't have to see that person. I don't want to have to talk with them again. I get it. They hurt you. I said, but if you work through the hard stuff in that relationship, you'll grow, you'll gain maybe the relationship, maybe you won't, but you'll grow through it. So if you take the easy route in adversity, you short circuit the opportunity for what you will get out of that. And it's so hard to say, though. I mean, it's hard to do. It's easy to say.
That's one of those conversation 1 of 15s. Where you can't just drop it on them and expect them to understand. And that's why these things are hard. That's why it takes discipline in these relationships. And Matt, I'm sure you go through that with men all the time. It's a process. And everybody's not going to get it at the same time. They're not going to get it early. Some guys do. And sometimes that's dependent on the desperation in their situations. But that's one of those cases where, okay, now you're a pastor, so it's a little different, but for somebody else and a friend, you say, okay, I know this is going to take time, and this is going to take a lot of these conversations, because it's not easy to lead. It's not easy to be that voice for them that comes alongside and speaks in truth. It just isn't. It's not. So when you take this on, take it upon as a challenge. You talked about the peaks and valleys of life and the growth and some of those things. And I've had guys who they're great success stories, and I don't want to act like I'm a success story. I'm just saying, in terms of guys I'm trying to get to at least understanding or approaching the truth and going, okay, now I'm ready to kind of take that next step. There's some guys I've known for years who I cannot get off the bench. And it's not like I have the answers again, but it's just in terms of sending them things. Oh yeah, I love that. Okay. What are we going to do with that? Well, what about this? And I'll send them something else. And I love them to death, but they're still in that same spot. So in terms of like even a situation where this couple you're talking about, that's an investment on your part. But it's so worth it in the end if you can get them to start taking those steps and see some growth.
Yeah, absolutely. So I agree, and I love this because on that same note, going through adversity, Matt, when your middle-aged son, that I know very well, who's a total stud, by the way, who's married now and watching him, do things in life. But Matt, when you're in that season as a dad, husband, Mike, husband, and your kids through that time with Shelly, people look to us. We're trying to process our own stuff.
Yep.
I'm going through inwardly, trying to deal with my own, God, where are you? What is this all about? Why is this happening? This isn't fair, all those things. But then people look to us. How do you reconcile that tension of people need me to be strong for them right now, but I'm weak inside? I don't know. I'm trying to trust God. I'm trying to persevere. Because I know others need me. Like, how do you reconcile that with us as men? A lot of us are seen as leaders, not by position or title, but by relationship. And how did you navigate? How do you guys both navigate the inward battle of I'm struggling inside, but others are looking at me and I can't? How do I be what they need? Not fake it till you make it, but how do you reconcile the inner tension with adversity faced with people looking to you, leading them through adversity?
I think you have to be honest. I think you have to state it. About a month ago, dear friend at Grace and his wife was, ultimately going to lose the battle with her illness. And I said out loud to him, I said, I'm pretty angry at God. Are you? And he was able to share it. And it's not to take advantage of God, and it's not to, that whole overextend the grace he gives us. I just think we got to be honest. It is okay to say out loud, I really believe, to write in a journal, whatever.
Yeah.
To say, God, I am really, really angry. I am hurt. Why have you allowed this to happen?
Wow. Yeah.
I think you got to say it. Because I know this, he can take it.
Yep.
He wants honesty out of us. He does not want perfection. He wants pursuit. And I think when we say that, and I had to be honest with Dylan, I think sometimes we hurt each other more by what we don't say than what we actually say.
Wow. Whoa.
I think we've got to share it.
Yeah.
As a leader, they've got to see I'm wrestling, right? I think we tend to put leaders on platforms and pedestals that we don't deserve, and we wrestle and fight. And I also know this, and I haven't experienced some of the very, very hard, painful that I'm sure some of our listeners have experienced. And also when I take time and I look back and reflect, those really, really hard things, those valleys in life, that's why that happened, right? I think even about my dad, my best friend. It has helped me, allowed me to maybe be able to walk into a hospital easier, to walk into a medical, those things. Part of what he did and stuff. And it's allowed me, it's kind of given me the faith, the courage to try try to step towards those things. And what does it look like to honor, what he did and continue that legacy and those things. So
my dad was a high school basketball coach, as you know, and so you are in that role now. And I always saw how he was so much more of just scheming an offensive game plan. And I've seen how I've been to games that you've coached, and I see how you carry yourself on the sidelines and with your players. Not everybody does it how you do it. Even I see you walk this stuff out as we talk about this, and I've seen situations where in a game you've been in, there's an awful call, a series of awful calls, really bad calls. So an injustice, if you will, on the court at times. And I've watched how you do it with this, and I watch your players watch you and how you do that. So that's all premeditated, I know, but what an opportunity when you think about that. And you always think about a coach. It doesn't matter the age of the kids. You're coaching varsity athletes, high school basketball athletes. But what is your strategy in shaping those minds in terms of how you carry yourself, your demeanor around them, your demeanor in a big loss, not a big win, in a big loss, and maybe a big loss that was caused by a bad call or a kid that blew a lay-in at the buzzer and missed it. Some injustice that the team looks for you for a response in that they will then carry the rest of their lives. And that because I remember my coaches, I remember moments. I don't remember very many wins. I remember the losses and how we handled them, how I felt, and how my coach led in those moments. So what is your approach to that, and how do you see your players looking at you in those moments?
No, it's a good question. Yeah, I do aspire. Again, I'm not perfect. I've had my moments, but I really do try to aspire to model a behavior that ultimately, because one of our core things that we talk about is resilience and character, and what does character and resilience actually look like, and to model that out. I asked the kids in our program, I said, I have a belief on how I want to conduct myself during games. And I'm curious what you guys, and I painted the two pictures of the coach. Do you want a coach that's going to complain about every call, that's going to use profanity, potentially get really upset, emotional, intense into it? I'm kind of painting maybe not an ideal picture, that person, that guy. Or do you want the approach that we've talked about? Like, what do you actually want? If you're sitting there on a bench in a game over the course of a year, like, what do you actually want? I couldn't find any kid to actually say they wanted example A. Like, it's okay to say example A, because we know very successful coaches have that. And they said, okay, what was cool though is, hey, okay, we like B, but can you have moments of A where, and I said, you're right. There are times that I got to do a better job of advocating for you. And I've actually tried to kind of grow in that a little bit this summer but you're trying to model something. I think with coaching, you always, and I get caught up in this all the time, you're trying to win on Friday night, right here, right now. And I've had some really good guys, because I've pursued it, and women who have spoken into my life, think about the long game. Where do you want to be 2 years from now, 3 years from 4 years from now? And these are the intentional steps that you need to take. I try to do a lot of reading. And, kind of back to men, and we've been talking about those hard things. Somebody asked me a question once, because I was whining and complaining about something years ago. And he looked at me and he goes, what are you going to do today so that we're not sitting here at the same restaurant a year from now having the exact same conversation? That has always stuck with me. And so, we talked about health, thriving, growth. What are the things that we're going to do and model so that 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, in coaching, these things really do matter. Because rarely in a high school do you walk in and you just have a starting lineup 6'4" and above, with 3 of them having D1 offers. That's not always going to be the case. And so what is the foundation that you're going to lay that's going to allow you to have the most excellent success possible, right? There's 32 teams in 5A basketball, I believe. It's 32. So if we all define success by winning a state championship, that means 31 of us are going to go, our season was a failure. Like, it just can't be that way. No, I can't buy into that. Do we aspire for that? 100%. And also, that can't be the only thing, because 31 of us every year are going to be really, really disappointed and felt like we failed our kids.
So funny is you're talking about it. We're talking about it in terms of coaching, but everything you were saying, I'm sitting here thinking about, is completely applicable as any leadership. Yep. A boss, an employee, a father, a friend, all of these things. And that's why I came back to when I watched you at games, because your players then, and I watched their reactions. And I grew up watching games, obviously watching coaches with my dad. But it's so often when you see the coach, and I'm not going to be critical of coach that's angry and berating his players in front of everybody, including parents, and then berating officials, then you watch the way the players react to bad things on the court, and they are exactly like their coach. So it has to make you proud when you see a player react in the proper way that you've tried to teach, regardless of the score or the win or the loss. And then you think about, that's exactly the way it is in our lives, not only with our families, but even with our friends. I admire and respect good friends in my life who show me, and I do observe everybody. Guys who aren't high and low. I love the even-keeled demeanor with perspective always. That's such a valuable approach to take, and that's why of course, I've always been around sports, but there's so much of sports and leadership and teamwork and handling highs and lows and wins and losses that replicate themselves in our lives.
Yeah, no, for sure. When I was leading up to, we had summer ball, then the official season of year one, and I was asking different people, and it's interesting, like the core, character, opportunity, resilience, excellence has really come out of the VP book, our core, like you would never want to eat the core of a rotten apple, right? All of that. And so we've taken that, and I was talking to some different people, and I remember going out to Newburgh and meeting with a professor, and I was asking him, like, what's the one thing I need to go after as a coach? And so I've got this wide range. And he said, the best thing that you can give your kids is develop grit in them. Give them a safe place to fail, get back up and try again. And so, right? It's leadership. What does it look like for us as leaders, fathers, husbands, uncles, grandpas, whatever, to have an environment where kids can aspire, whoever can aspire to be the very best? They're going to fail, but it's going to be done in a good, healthy, safe environment, and they're going to want to get up and do it again.
On this real quick too, because I got so many other questions we want to ask, but I want to ask this, Matt, you in the sports world, you bring both a perspective as a pastor and as a coach. There's a lot of listeners right now that have kids that are in sports.
Yeah.
And the sport culture of Western sport, what advice would you give parents as a coach? Even if you want to blend that as a pastor too, but I get asked a lot of parents who are trying to figure out what's of value to their home. And does sports enhance the value, or does it distract or pull away from the value? Like, I'll give you an example. How many parents now I see come up to me and go, hey, we're not going to be at church the next 3 or 4 months, and it's all sports related. And I go, is that enhancing your values as a family, or is that distracting your values? And you're talking to 3 of us here on this podcast that are big sports time guys, coach. We've all played collegiate. We're all big time sports. So it's not an anti-sport thing. It's how do you see the healthy way? You've worked with so many high level elite athletes all the way down to your phenomenal development with young. What advice would you give to parents at different ages with their kids, and how sports can be still positive versus when it goes off the rails?
Yeah, it's a really good picture. I'll be honest, because we did not do this very well as parents. if I could do something, if Julie and I could do something again or a redo, it would be we would prioritize and protect Sunday. I know, I know exactly what you feel. The tension, the semifinal game is at 10:30 Sunday morning. You win that game and you play the championship game at 2. Like, I have been there a bazillion times. And also, because of kind of how youth sports are, there's a lot of stuff on the weekend. We just can't give up as a family unit that many Sundays. We can't. I think we need to be more intentional. I think we've got to protect. And it's not about church attendance, right?
Right.
And there's thankfully other opportunities like we have Wednesday, Sunday evenings. But how do you prioritize during the week that the spiritual part and growth of your family? Trust me, we all have FOMO. We don't want to miss that game at that time. And also, what are we trying to prepare our kids for? How do we honestly prepare them for the road versus preparing the road for them? Like, these things, like right here, right now. And again, this is easy to say because back then the 6th grade championship was a big deal. And it is. I don't ever want to minimize that. There are amazing moments, but we've got to prioritize and protect.
Yeah.
We've got a couple kids in our program who they don't play on Sunday. And I actually love that. I admire that. And I go, good on you guys. Right? And I remember as a youth coach, tried to develop really good relationships. And I tried to say, hey, church is important. Is there any way you can design our schedule? I know this is a request. And here's what's crazy. 90+% of the times, I should give a shout out to him. He actually built my schedule in a way where I didn't have to miss Sunday morning.
Wow.
Sometimes maybe you just ask.
Yeah, that's a good
Exactly.
point. That's a great point.
Maybe you just ask. And trust me, I know brackets and tournaments, it's tricky and you're traveling all the time, but we got to prioritize it.
I'll never forget when you were coaching and you won a 6th grade boys state championship.
8th grade.
8th grade. Sorry, that's right. 8th grade.
They don't let me forget that. Sorry. they don't let me forget that.
It was 8th grade.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget the Sunday. I can see it in my head right now with the green chairs.
Yep.
You had a whole section roped off at church as the whole team came in with you. And you won that state championship. And on the heels of that success, you guys came in. And I've told you this, Matt. I said, it won't surprise you. And I know it's already happened the longer you've done this, but there will be times in the future when one of your athletes will be then a grown man, a father, a boss, someone, and will come back and say, it's because of those things you did for me when I was a player on your team. And that's the deposits you're making now. It's like you're sowing into a life, not just an athlete. And, in the NBA, we always say that more than an athlete. It's a big deal now. It's fascinating. You guys believe this, how much faith in sports are, I think about this, amazing how much faith in sports, particularly here in the West, even in the Olympics, they start off horribly, but when you look at how many testimonies of athletes throughout the Olympic ceremonies, wow. Is there a way that you guys both have seen, so much of the Bible metaphors are sports?
Yeah.
And it just relates to us, spiritual conditioning, physical conditioning, preparing for life, adversity, resilience. It's amazing how many ways sports can actually parallel to your spiritual development. So Matt, on that, what are some things you've done in your spiritual faith? Just like how an athlete has to prepare to go on the court, what are some things you've done to exercise your faith, condition your faith, prepare your faith, strengthen your faith? What are some disciplines you have? Just like an athlete has to be disciplined, what are some disciplines you have to strengthen your faith?
So this has been going for a good few years plus now. I start every day writing something that I am grateful for. Mm-hmm. It does not have to be some profound whatever. This morning, on the 27th of August, 2024, I am grateful for those who are willing to help me. And something else and so just the posture of gratitude, being thankful, recognizing. Another thing, and I've really felt this, I've really felt the power of this, is I now write out, because I try to do a devotional or reading scripture. I actually write out at least a verse a day now.
Wow.
I put pen to paper. I wrote the verse. This came out of my devotion today. And so Psalms 25 verses 4 and 5. Can hardly read. My eyes are bad. It comes from a royal reflect. Show me your ways, Lord. Teach me your, gosh, my eyes are that bad. Teach me your path, going with me in your truth, and teach me. For you, God, my Savior, and hope that you have in me. Like I write out the verse every day.
It's every day.
You think about the little time that actually takes.
Right.
30 seconds this morning. It was 30 seconds.
Right.
Wow.
Yep. So something that I'm grateful for, and a passage of scripture, a verse. It's been huge.
Wow.
It's helped how I remember things too.
I want to circle back to one thing. When you were, I remember this, and I observe a lot, and I always would see you at church, and here's where my story and your stories are a little similar, but they're a little different too. So you're in the business world, and I remember seeing when you left the business world, which was financially better for you, but I saw when you, all of a sudden, you're on staff one day. I'm like, he left the secular business world to be a pastor because he just saw that there was a need there. But I also see where you were talking about sacrifices and traveling and being away and in you coming to your own conclusion and taking power in your own situation to solve that. Whereas my situation, and I'm not going to beat myself up here, and I loved my job, but I traveled with the Blazers in the NBA. I was gone 7 months of the year. I missed everything of we've talked about this in this podcast. I've missed so much of my kids' lives. That decision was made for me. As we talked about after these 16 playoffs, the broadcast crew was shockingly all fired. I thought shockingly, but I guess looking back at prayer and me being stuck and going, what do I do? I can't do this. This travel's killing me. I can't live out of a hotel room anymore. But I remember looking at you at that moment and seeing what you had done and moving into ministry because you just felt you needed to. The respect I had for you because of you being obedient to that calling in your head at that moment. And I remember that. I always wanted to tell you that because I would watch you at church. Okay, here's a guy who's successful in business. I know he's been out in the world. He gave it all up to come do this because he thought it was more important. That's a cool thing that you modeled, not only for your family, but for the men in the church. And now the fact that you're leading men, and one thing we haven't talked about is the Forge, which you also lead, which is different than your cohort, which you guys do that at 6 a.m.?
Yeah, double O dark for some people.
6 a.m. every Wednesday, correct?
Yeah. Every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday.
But I think if you don't tell that story to those guys, you need to tell that story more. Because I think a lot of guys come into that situation where you know what the right step is, you know the right path, you even have been maybe feeling a prompting to be guided onto that path, but you don't actually have the balls to do it.
Yeah.
You did. That's really cool.
Yeah, and I really appreciate it. And I think this also, like the things that happen to us in life, right? My ability to step into ministry, I think, it did start with my obedience back in 2014 when I left a company and I had no rock to step onto.
Yeah.
I remember the middle son that I love. I remember him distinctly saying, "Oh, so we're going to be that family that's going to lose everything."
Yeah. Start making your own
I'm
clothes.
going to have to work, and we're not going to be able to go to the Nike employee, so we're not going to be able to do any of that. So we're that family now. And I remember there's an opportunity for Julie and I to model this. Thankfully, she was blessed, had a job. So I took that step in 14. Julie has cancer in 15 that we've talked about. Lose a very, very, one of the the best kids I ever coached. His name's AJ Slaughter. Lost him suddenly in January of 2016. And so I'm at this company, Sester Farms, and I'm rolling down the road in Wisconsin. June of 2016, I'm rolling down the road, and all of these things have happened, and I'm wrestling inside. And the Holy Spirit just said, Matt, what are you doing? And I said, well, I'm trying to get to this next nursery. It's a really good account. And what are you doing? And it wasn't that what I was doing at that time wasn't good. I actually really liked that job. A week and a half later, I'm sitting at Famous Dave with Mike and Coach Osborne, and we're planning out we had this concept. We're going to do this VP basketball camp, this vertical pursuit basketball camp, and we're wrestling through. And Mike looks down at me and he goes, do you want to join our staff? And I think that was the second or third time I asked. And I actually knew then in that moment, I'm actually going to do this. I didn't lead or say that. And it was a process though. It took a couple of years to get to that moment when he expressed an invitation. Didn't know if he was serious or joking. Realized, I think he is actually more serious than joking. And there was enough faith, enough confidence in that moment to say, okay, I'm going to do this. But it didn't just happen. It's because of the things in life, right, that God had instrumentally used to prepare me.
But it took your obedience, though.
It did.
Yeah.
And it was hard. And I tried to wrestle God out of it. I did.
Sure.
I had a lot of reasons. Had a lot of financial reasons. I'll be honest with you. If you would have said you're going to be a pastor 10, 15 years prior to that, I would have been embarrassed to say that I'm a pastor. Oh, you're what now?
Yeah.
I thought you were a district sales manager. No, I'm a pastor. I'm a pastor at a church that I have attended. Yeah, I did. And there's been a lot of times I have been disobedient. And to be honest, guys, it doesn't work too well. At some time, he runs you down.
Wow.
Do you think that decision would have been made for you had you not ultimately made it?
Yeah. So do you actually want to hear a crazy sales story? So I'm at the company, and if you sell X amount in a year, you get a huge bonus. So in the sales territory, I have a good month, right? A good month is about, it depends on your territory, but let's call it 100,000. It's just a good month in sale because you got multiple salesmen. 100,000 a month. So easy to do, average out. 8 weeks ago, and I only had to sell $7,000. $7,000. You get 2 months to sell that much money. At some point, you just buy it, put it in your own yard,
Sure,
and get the bonus.
Right.
Couldn't do it. Couldn't sell.
Wow.
I tried for the life of me.
Huh.
You have months where you easily, you do that in a week. You do that in a day. Couldn't do it. So, Mike, you ask a very, very profound question. I'd like to say I had a lot of obedience and courage.
Wow.
And as you asked that, I'm reminded again, I think God slammed a door shut.
Wow.
He slammed a door shut. I could not sell $7,000 over the last month and a half, 2 months of that fiscal year.
Wow.
Interesting.
Great reminder. Great question. It took both.
Yeah, because in my situation, it's the same thing. I don't think I
sometimes
listened.
gotta
And
be
then
taken
finally
away.
he said, I'll go ahead and just make this happen then if you're not going to do it on your own.
Wow. Well, and you go, it's like sometimes God says, I'm nudging you, and he wants us to take that step of obedience. And then sometimes he shoves. And by the closed door, that's okay, I can't. And or you could almost see it as confirmation.
Yeah.
A way of okay, Lord, this seems not normal. I'm going to take that as a sign, a confirmation that this is part of you saying move forward. But it's crazy, Matt, because AJ, you brought up AJ's passing, and I know that had an impact, and Matthews and several. You've walked through some really hard stuff. And we started this podcast by referring to you as a first responder. And in some places, interesting, in some places, I've been to some states, pastors are considered first responders. It's people have, hey, are you a first responder? So I know I'm a pastor. And they go, oh yeah, you get our first responder discount. I'm like, oh, that doesn't happen very often. But
Everything you guys do fits the bill.
well, and that's why
It describes it.
And Matt runs to that, not because he's like, oh, I'm, masochistic in that sort of way.
Yeah.
It's because you've been on that side of it. You've been on the side of it, and you can. There's something powerful sitting down with someone, looking at them, going, "I know exactly where you're sitting. I've been there," and they just open up the comfort you give them, the encouragement you give them. Man, you run into some really hard things as a pastor and as a coach. You have to do that as a coach too. I think coaching and pastoring are very similar, to be honest.
Oh, they very much are. They very much are. Yeah, and I remember sitting in our living room in the small group that you talked about, and you guys praying for Julie.
Yep.
I remember walking into the prayer room.
Yeah.
I remember people showing up.
Yeah.
Because we had healthy relationships in our lives. We had people around us who were going to walk through all of it. So it's been modeled to us. We've been on the receiving end of that. We've been blessed to put ourselves in those places, and it allows you to try to reciprocate and do that. And I think, if anything that I have learned is in God's courage, are we going to be men that are going to step, right? I think if we just step out, He's got the rest. In
our final, as we're coming down the home stretch here, we could go for hours, obviously. Let me ask you a question, because you deal with men all the time, not only in your cohort, but also in the Forge. What do you do? I have so many guys that I know, and Mike and I kick this around a lot, and I'm never sure how to get there. There's so many guys who are successful and cruising along. They don't not believe. They might believe, but in terms of acting on it in any way, shape, or form, they're kind of like, I don't really need God right now. I don't doubt that He exists. Sure. How do you get them over that? How do you go to, when somebody's in desperate times, when their wife gets diagnosed with cancer, that's pretty easy fruit to pick off the tree. They're ripe and ready to go. Yeah. How do you get the guys when things are going fantastic, business-wise, they got more money they can spend. They're everything looks to be laid out to where there is no desperation. How do you get to those guys?
Man.
And maybe that's a question you can't answer. I know.
If you got an answer,
or even how do you get them in conversation that's authentic and deep and beyond the surface?
I think very successful guys are busy guys, right? I think those things go hand in hand. And I think if you could sit them down or you could go somewhere them, I think the question that I would love to ask is obviously you can't lead with this, but how do they define success?
Yeah.
Right?
Good.
How do they define success? And they've done a long thing. And also, what do they want to be remembered for? What is the legacy that they want to leave? Things are amazing right here and right now. Right? And we've heard multiple times, what do you want? Gosh, I hate saying this because it's kind of, but what do you want your obituary to read? What do you want your tombstone to actually say?
Yeah.
To go there. And it's hard to pull guys.
Yeah.
Making all kinds of money. You're flying to Europe. You're sitting front row at a Blazer game. Life is really, really good. And it can't just be all that there is, right?
Correct.
Can't be all. And I'd be willing to bet if they're a believer, they're walking with Jesus, I'm willing to bet, has the Holy Spirit been knocking on your door? Has He been gnawing at something? Here's how He's gnawing at me. So
that's great.
Wow.
No, that's a really good approach. That's a good question to ask of somebody too, because they may not answer it correctly in those 2 seconds, but on their drive home when you're gone.
You nailed it, Mike. You actually, I think that is gold right there. When you ask really good questions, it's not always the answer in the moment or the room, It's when they leave. What are you sending them out with to think and actually reflect on?
Yeah.
Wow.
Good word, Mike.
Wow.
Hey.
Well, as we wrap up, you did something as an invitation this summer with a group of guys. It was a challenge you gave.
Yep.
Just tell us about that as we wrap up, because I think I've heard from some guys that participated and said that was really helpful and meaningful for them.
Yeah, we took a break from the Forge this summer, and I've heard from multiple guys way too long of a break, and I think there might be some validity into this, but I sent out another invitation. I've been really dramatically affected in a very, very positive way with Mark Batterson's The 40-Day Prayer Challenge. And I threw out an invitation, and I said, this will actually be the third time for me. But if we start on this date, who wants to step into this? And the only thing that I ask of you is, the only commitment is this: just read every day for 40 straight days and see what God will do and how he will move. And I sent that out, and myself and 15 other guys ventured out. We met twice. We met midway, and then we had kind of a recap. And it was really good. It was really powerful. And the thing that I loved, and I had prayed about this and I prepared myself, because we had a guy who went in with great expectation. And he prayed about something very, very specific. Very, very specific. That his marriage would be redeemed and reconciled. We got through the 40-day prayer challenge, and last week he actually signed his divorce papers.
Wow.
He went in with great expectation, and he would say it was an amazing 40 days, and he's actually doing again. And what does it look like to walk into something with tremendous expectation, a very powerful time, and the one thing he wanted, God didn't answer in the way that he had hoped or thought. So,
but he was prepared differently.
He was, and our exchange even this week, I'm so proud of that guy.
Wow.
That's a whole nother, that's a topic in its own.
Seriously.
For an individual
We need
podcast.
a Matt Taylor part 2.
Well, but that's fantastic that you bring that up and then you follow with that comment, because that's exactly right.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
Are people still listening?
Oh, yeah.
We hope so. We think so.
They are.
Maybe not all the same time. If they're any like me, I get in the car and my truck will just pick up whatever podcast I was on, and then it just continues it. And sometimes it takes 8 drives that week for me to get through one.
Yeah.
Nice.
But that's kind of how it works.
Hear from lots of guys doing that.
Mike, before we wrap up, you are going to, we've talked about ways for listeners to reach us and to reach out, because I want to hear topics that are important to you guys. I want to hear questions, experiences that you are having, not only with the podcast, but with your life that because I've had guys stop me, even just like wherever I'm at, they'll say, hey, have you guys talked about this yet? Or this is one thing I'm talking about. But then I think to myself, we do have through the Vertical Pursuit app or website, a way to, but it's not easy, a way to reach out. Spotify, I know, has a way to reach out, but we're changing this.
Yeah. And we're working. So this is what we're going to do right now, because Mike and I really feel led. We want a relationship with you guys. And we know many of you who are listening, we're really grateful for your words. And I just talked with a young guy on Sunday who said, man, I was really starting. Your last podcast just really changed my life, made a huge impact. We've talked about guys that are Border Patrol listening. So shout out to you guys. Thank you for what you're doing. First responders, guys in other states, men, women, everybody. And we really value your relationship. And we want to be connected to you. And we want to hear, maybe you got an idea of a topic that you want us to break down.
Yeah, that's what I want.
Maybe you heard a podcast and say, could you guys go there again and break that one down? Or maybe you just want to say hi and thank you. And, you just heard Matt Taylor, and maybe that's impacted you, and you want to relay a message that we can give him, and you can say, hey, that podcast really encouraged me.
We'll give you Matt's cell number.
Yeah. I got it right now. I can bring it up for you guys. Here we go right now. 503. No, I'm joking. But we want you guys to reach out to us, ask questions, give us feedback, give us topic ideas. And also, we're working on sending out a communication, probably like a newsletter, a VP podcast newsletter. We just want to encourage you guys. What would it look like if you opened up your inbox one day and there was a word of encouragement for the day? There was some scripture that maybe you heard us and you're like, where was that? Could you guys put that down so I can carry that with me. You know, when I do Blazer chapels, I always give a handout of our chapel notes.
Yeah.
And it's one thing to hear it, but if I can walk away and I got it written down somewhere. And so we'll put some thoughts down into like a newsletter, encourage you guys. Mike and I have talked about having some get-togethers.
Yeah.
At different times where everybody's, of course, welcome that would want to come as listeners. But how do you know about those things? Events, we're going to start having where you can subscribe to a newsletter. You can send us if you're interested in that. So here's how you can connect with us. Give us topic ideas, feedback. If you go to the Vertical Pursuit app, it's very easy. Hopefully you can get that app because the podcast goes through that. But there's just a button that says connect when you go there. It's just 3 simple things you can fill out. You can write your comments and feedback, questions, and you can click if you want to subscribe to the newsletter or not. That's totally up to you. But it's the connect button on the app. It's also the connect button on the Vertical Pursuit website.
Okay.
And so it's super easy. It's 2 clicks away. Go to the verticalpursuit.org website, get the VP app, the connect button. It says connect, just a couple questions there. Fire it off, and we want to stay connected. We want to hear from you guys, and at some point, hopefully, meet you guys. We love our interactions with you. Whenever we talk with someone who has listened, we just love that interaction with you guys.
Yeah, and you can listen to the podcast obviously on Spotify and iTunes, and you can also get it on the app.
That's right.
You go down to the bottom. There's a little icon of headphones, and it says podcast, so you can hear it there as long as and you can dive into the VP book. If you would like, and read lots of different things. It's a big part of what we do. It's a big reason why this whole thing is connected to it. I think the podcast, as we've talked about, was kind of a nice addition to the whole Vertical Pursuit process.
And why Matt's here, we have a resource coming out for men. That's going to be hot off the presses here, hopefully in maybe just around a month, that both of you have participated in. Mm-hmm. It's a resource book that we put together for men. There's several men that have come together, but the 3 of us are a big part of that, and that's coming out. So look forward to that in about a month or so.
And it's a devotional book, correct?
Yeah, it's a book where I wrote 6 chapters on the struggles and challenges that we face as men in our culture right now, and then how to have a plan, an actual plan for development, growth, spiritual formation in your life. Things in there, how to be a leader at home, and what does it look like to unpack some of these core issues that Matt was referring to. And then on top of that, there's a handful of us guys that actually wrote a 40-day devotional all around the attributes of what it means to be a man that's shaped like Jesus. So it's written for men on masculinity and character development, all that kind of stuff, and it's going to be really, really powerful. Just as a teaser, the professional editor that we sent it out and hired that edits books professionally, who happened to be a guy, just yesterday sent the edits back and said, this is phenomenal.
Really?
So that was encouraging for our first really, a guy out there who's editing this. He's a professional editor because we wanted this done really well. His feedback was, wow, you guys, this is good.
Wow, that's great. And we'll continue let's continue to update people on that. On the podcast for where they can get it, how they can get it, because that'll get us hopefully help a lot of guys and get it out there. Matt Taylor, thank you for all you do.
Thank you for having me on this.
Of course. No, thank you for kind of your leadership and what you're showing, man, and all the and Mike just talked about this 40-day devotional, and I want to emphasize this. These things don't take a lot of time. As you talked about in a gratitude journal and writing down something you're grateful for and then writing down a verse, it took 2 minutes out of your day. But what a foundation to start each day with. And I've gotten into that now with devotionals, and I've tried to tell guys before, and they're like, I don't have time. Yeah, you do have time. You do. It doesn't take any time.
Wow.
But those little moments of the day, they speak louder than others. And I think that's a great way to start things off. I always do mine in the morning because I feel like it kind of sets the tone.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're that way too.
Absolutely. Do we have time for the 4 people that are listening? If one of the 4 will do this, something else is powerful. And here's my challenge to you guys. On August 21st of 2022, and I've got this posted in strategic areas, I wrote out, be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer, Romans 12:12. To wake up each day and embrace the opportunity to pastor, lead, and coach with both joy and enthusiasm, regardless of how I feel and the circumstances around me. The world will be better different because I serve Jesus today. Don't give the enemy a seat at your table, Louis Giglio. And the reason I share that is it has been huge for me for all of the times that I get knocked over, get knocked down, and I wake up and I see that to just kind of shoot the arrow the right way for the day. Wow. And it's hard, but it's a great reminder to me what I try to do and pursue.
Wow. Great way to end it.
Wow.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks to all of you for listening. As always, to Vertical Pursuit, we will see you next time. This was episode 65, by the way.
Wow.
Onward and upward, baby. We invite you to subscribe to our podcast, comment, or message us, and check out our website at verticalpursuit.org. Download the VP app and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook.